So in June, the book club and I read a book called Make Time by Knapp and Zeratsky, and I liked it enough that I felt it was imperative that I put a reference page of that book and what it talked about in my journal. In particular, I'm working in my long-term collections journal today, so the one where I put reference materials and things that I'm going to want to reference for years to come, mainly so I don't have to jump back into an old notebook and remember which of my old notebooks it is. Having it in here makes it a little bit easier. So today what we're going to set up is what I'm going to be calling a tactics menu. It's effectively like a habit menu, but it's for the tactics that they talk about in this book. So if you don't know what the book is, like I said, it's called Make Time by Knapp, Zeratsky. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sure he won't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's nice to pronounce people's names correctly. I do have a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. And according to our poll, we have about 64% of people who are considering reading it, and then 12% of people who say that they definitely do want to read it. So that's pretty exciting. I thought it was worthwhile. I thought it was a good read. So if you are considering it, totally check it out. But as said, we are going to be setting up a tactics menu. Now, a little bit of description before we get into this. So what are these tactics? What are we talking about here? So in the book, they effectively talk about the idea of for each day, you set yourself a highlight, or it's a specific thing that you want to do or like have done by the end of the day. Something that you want to be able to get to the end of the day and say, yeah, I did this thing, which means that today was kind of a success. So they have some tactics or strategies that you can use for picking the highlight. They have ones for setting aside time for the highlight. They have ones for making sure that you can focus on getting that highlight done, all this kind of stuff. I'm not necessarily super on board with the idea of calling it a highlight, mainly because when you use the word highlight, it makes it sound like it's a positive thing. It's not necessarily always a positive thing. For instance, one of my highlights for last week was writing scripts, and I don't really like writing, so it wasn't necessarily like a super fun highlight, but it was something that needed to get done. So if we jump over here, so you can see this is my copy of the book. We have Make Time, nice like bright cover here. And the nice part about it is that because I have a digital version, I can jump around quite easily, but you can see that they list out all of the tactics here in the contents page. So choosing your highlight, making time for your highlight, laser, which is kind of the focus stage, that kind of thing. So these are the kind of things that I want to write down in my journal. So rather than just writing down the kind of, I guess, title of the tactic, I also want a little bit of a description. I don't want it to just be the contents page copied into my notebook because that doesn't seem super useful. What I'm probably going to do instead is something like write out, Tactic 1, choose your highlight, or like write it down, and then have a very short description after this to explain to myself how I would actually utilize that tactic. But first we kind of need to plan our page a little bit so I can kind of see what's going on. Let's see. First of all, just explaining how this book works. So in making my long-term collections journal, wanted to keep it super simple, right? So that anytime I wanted to make a layout in here, it didn't feel like an uphill battle to try and get myself into my journal to work on my journal. Yeah. So each of the pages in this notebook look pretty much the same. They have the same kind of header text. They have the same simple border. And then I just work through in reverse rainbow order. So for example, we started with purple, went to blue, then to green, then to yellow, orange, red, and kind of just start the loop again. All right. Eventually, I decided I wanted to include pink in this loop. So we can see like this one's red and then pink and then purple. And my most recent page setup, well, half setup, was red, which means we are now onto pink again. Okay, so we're going to be doing a pink page in this. To do this, we're going to use a Tombow, because I always do a Tombow for the header and for the border. And we're also going to probably be using a Staedtler Tri-Plus Fineliner just to do the headers for each of the different sections, or possibly for the title of the tactics themselves Not quite sure yet. So we will have to wait and see. Might do a little bit of trialing before we actually commit it to the journal. I mean, mistakes are always fixable, but I'd rather not have to fix more things than I need to, Which means, of course, we will be starting with pencil. Not to write everything in, though, because that would just take way too much time. But for things like the headers, I do like to pencil those in first. Otherwise, we end up with a situation where my lettering doesn't look quite right, and it irks me. For instance, in the back here is where I have my color swatches, and this header just looks weird to me. I would have preferred having either the same E, but probably not, or the lowercase first. So this looks odd. We want to avoid things looking odd. So let's write this out. So I'm just going to go with like make time. I usually make the first letter a capital because it's a header. So that makes sense in my mind. And I usually have it 3 squares down. So I quite like this lettering style though. It's quite easy and it's just a little bit of fun. And you don't have to have all the letters look exactly the same because you're intentionally making maybe every second letter-ish a capital. Like E, a little rounder, and then time, I'm going to do a capital T for time, I think. It doesn't need to be so that every single, like, it doesn't need to be a perfect pattern, is what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't need to be like capital, lowercase, capital, lowercase, capital, lowercase. So you can see here I've done capital, lowercase, lowercase. And then this one here, the E, I'll do as a capital. There we go. And then along here, I'll probably write something like tactic menu or something like that. But go in with our pen here. Says the pen. Gorgeous pen noises. But if you're working on something while you're watching this, though, let me know what it is. Like, are we doing a little body double moment here? Are we working on different things but together? So I am all about being your accountability buddy if that is the case. Make time. I really enjoyed this book. I know I already kind of mentioned that, but it was a very satisfying read. It's also a very short read, and it's very kind of like to the point, I suppose. Given the fact that it's a short read, that kind of makes sense. But there's not a lot of fluff, and anywhere that they give an example feels natural. It doesn't feel like kind of unnecessarily inflating the book, which is good. Also, if you've ever read a kind of like self-help book or anything in like the personal productivity space or whatever, oftentimes there's going to be a point where they talk about the idea of doing exercise and eating well. And in a lot of books, I feel like they come off super judgmental, but this one, it didn't. This one, it felt kind of just like, they're saying like, oh, I know that this is important, and I know that you guys know this is important, but we also get that that's not really everybody's vibe. So here are some other tactics instead. Let's not dwell on that for longer than we need to. So make time. Tactics. Menu. And I might put like a little subheader to say who it's from. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to bring it up on the screen so that I can actually see it. So yeah, that was make time. Because I knew, and then by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky. Yes. Excellent. Very good. It's always very nice to see people just like greeting people in the chat. If you don't have live chat turned on, by the way, you might have top chat turned on. You don't want to miss things. You don't want to be able to miss conversation with others. So make sure that you turn on the live chat rather than the top chat. So we will get rid of this pencil before I forget to, because oftentimes when I pencil things in, I don't necessarily forget to erase it, but I do miss erasing parts. So we're going to make it safe. Now, when it comes to doing my borders in this notebook, I have a couple of different options here. Sometimes I do just a border around the outside of the page, like a full spread one like this. And sometimes, if it's a single page, I'll just do a single one. But if we flip back a couple, maybe more than a couple, sometimes I do separate little bubbles. And that's because each of these have, kind of like information together. So obviously on this page, we're talking about ways that I can kind of fix or mitigate things that are going wrong for me. So it's like, hey, if you're feeling lonely, this is the stuff you can do. If you're just feeling a little bit down, this is the stuff you can do. So we could go for something like this. I don't know if I'll necessarily do this type of text for the headers, but another example would be something like this one. So it's the same idea again, it's just the headers are a little bit simpler, but each of the boxes are separate individual boxes, which I kind of like the idea of, so I think that that's what I might go with. We're going to need to see how many of these tactics there are per thing, because if we're going to do that, then I need to plan out where each of them is going to go, which is kind of hard to do, because if I was just doing the header, if I was just writing in the title like we were talking about before, so for instance, like write it down, groundhog it, ... then it wouldn't be too hard to plan out. But because I want to write that little bit of an extra piece of information, that little kind of blurby bit, it might be a little bit tricky to approximate how much space I need. But we can at least divide the page in half, because that is something that I'm going to do. I'm not going to be writing these out line by line. So we're going to need mine pencil and mine ruler, and halfway is 6.5. And we're just going to put myself a little guideline here so I know that that is the halfway mark, and we're not going to cross this line. And same idea on the other side, because there are, 84 tactics or something in this book, and I'm probably not going to write every single one of them down, just because there are some that I know aren't for me, or ones that I know that I wouldn't be inclined to use. So there's not a lot of purpose in having tactics that I'm not going to use in my book. I mean, like, technically I could put them in there as a reference just in case one day I want them, but okay, let's see. I need pen. Where do I want to actually start this to? Okay, we use one line spacer and then we start. And on the purple one from before, just to check, because I like to make sure my spacing's fairly consistent. Yeah, one line spacer and then we start. And we usually start one in. So if I was starting this one here, it would be highlight, one in, highlight, or I think it's actually like choose your highlight. I'm just going to write choose your afterwards because I know what I mean. Choose your. And then the border would go out of that header. It might be a little bit hard to see, but hopefully you can kind of very faintly make out the pencil. I put it in one square in, and then I do the border that curves around down from that. And on the other side as well. And then after this, I would write in the first tactic. So like we said, the first tactic is just writing it down. So number 1, poink, write it down. And then after this, I would write down kind of very briefly, I guess, how I would actually do that in my notebook. I think that that would be a fairly good structure. Do I want to go with it? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So the question of which journal are you using for this? So this one is my long-term collections journal so that I can use this as a reference. I don't have to think about which journal I've put this information in going forward. I just know that it's in my reference book. Highlight. Oh, yeah, I was supposed to write choose your, didn't I? See, this is why you pencil things out properly before you just go and write stuff in. But that's okay. We have a fix for this, especially because we've only just started, so it's nice and easy. So my go-to fix at the moment, all right, when I make a mistake of this nature, something that's relatively small, not a huge mistake, so things like spelling errors in titles in particular, like this one is, because this should say choose your highlight. It shouldn't say highlight, choose your. I'm not Yoda. I don't usually speak like Yoda. Vogel's laughing at me from the other room. But anywho, so my favorite mistake fix at the moment is just using these like white sticky labels, the kinds that you get at conferences where you write like, hello, my name is. So I just kind of take a piece of this, cut it to size, and stick it over the top. Super simple, nice and easy. And because this is a small one, we won't have to cut off too much. And the good part is, like, because I'm using a journal that has very white paper, and these are very white labels, it goes over and it's pretty hard to see, which is nice. You know, trying to blend in a little bit in terms of our fixes here. We'll just cut some of that off and stick it over the top. There we go. And it's all right that there's that little pink piece hanging out the other side because I'll just write over the top of it. But the nice part about this is that these sticky labels are cheap as heck. They're already sticky, so you don't have to apply any kind of glue or adhesive to the back of them. And because they're thinner than the doc grid paper, it means that when you make your fix, it doesn't add a lot of bulk to your notebook, which we like. We like having a nice Flatlander notebook, or at least I do. I think there's certainly a aesthetic that comes with a nice chonky notebook, but a chonky notebook that's made by sticking in tiny pieces of paper to fix mistakes, like, not quite my vibe. So yeah. All right, what are we writing now? Choose your highlight, not highlight your choose or whatever I wrote before. So CHO, there we go, SE, your highlight, better, GHT, safe. Okay, so I was gonna have it that the actual kind of header for the highlight, or the highlight's title, was written in pink as well. So I was gonna write it down wherever it is here. I can't press on it because it'll take us to the place. I was gonna write that in my pink pen, but I'm thinking that might maybe not the right choice, because now I've got that as the header color. So I could either pick out another pink that's a little bit lighter and use that, or I could highlight it with a Tombow, but I don't really have a lighter colored Tombow. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll just write down the number in the pink so that then it stands out a little better. All right, so we'll do 1. Okay, before we write the 1 in, I just want to make sure my spacing's right. I'm not super prissy, but I am kind of prissy. Okay, these ones come all the way to the edge. We should go all the way to the edge. 1. Poink. And then in black, we can write it down. It down. So if we actually go to the write it down section in the book, you can see I like have my little highlights in here as I read through. So you write things down, it's more likely to happen. Like I could write something about that. Or what I'm probably going to write is something more like how I would implement this. So it would be like, you know, write it on your daily list and put a signifier next to it or something like that, because that's how I'm actually going to utilize this tactic in my journal. Because a lot of these I utilize in my journal. I mean, some of them not so much, but it's effectively trying to find a way to word it or explain it, I guess, elaborate on it in a way that I can actually use it. Bless you. Vogel's sneezing from the other room. There we go. We'll put myself back at the contents page, not the epigraph contents. There we go. Cute. So we can find that next time. So write it down. The way that I will actually utilize that is, ooh, do I want to write this in black? I think I do. Do I want to? Because that's like a title, and then this is going to be an elaboration. You guys get to see a bit more of a kind of realistic look of Jess's, you know, pain of choices, trying to decide how she's going to put things into her journal. Because if I put everything in black, it feels like then everything has the same level of importance, I suppose. So same idea as when we were trying to pick the pink versus the kind of black here. Yeah, I was thinking maybe a gray, yeah, so that then the black stands out a little bit better. Then which gray do I use? Then I also don't want to blunt my gray pen. Ah! Alright, I'm gonna go see if I can find a grey pen that doesn't look like it sucks. So, the greys that I have, ouch, rude. We've got a palish grey like this. We've got a darkish grey like this. We've got a bluish grey. That one's a no. This one is way too pale, so that one's also a no. We'll just put this to the side. That one's also pale, so that one's a no. That one's kind of darker. This one's kind of blue. Let's see. Do I have a piece of paper script? No, of course I don't have a piece of paper. I will not be able to do a separate color because I can understand why the idea would be yellow or light blue like the cover, but the reason that I wouldn't do that is because I have a very set aesthetic going in this notebook of each color, or each rather page or layout has its own color. Yeah. So like this is my yellow page. This is my orange page. So if it's going to be colored in any way, it's going to have to be pink. And I don't think I want to write in light pink, if that kind of makes sense. As I said, I'm not super particular. I'm just really bloody particular about things. So I think that this might be too dark. We're going to need to swatch these out, I think. Methinks. Which means we'll need a little piece of paper. Thankfully, I have a tiny bag of offcuts that we can use. So we'll just scribble it on this one because this one's kind of small. And this one is quite pale. So that might be too pale because we still want it to be fairly dark. This one is darker. I guess it's really just a question of, do I want to write as much as I'm probably going to write in a fine liner? Because fine liners aren't really my preference when it comes to writing because I'm a bit heavy-handed, which is why I like using the Inkjoy, because it's a ballpoint pen. Like, it can stand up to me being an aggressor. And that's a very nice dark color, but it's possibly a little too dark. That one's quite nice. I don't think I have any clicky pens that are grey, do I? When I say clicky pens, I mean this one. Yeah. Why do they make fine liners so delicate? I could just be thinking about this too much. It is my way. Yeah. Use the fine liner for the header next to the number. Like the grey or the name? Can't remember the name of the other one. I don't seem to have a grey pen of any description that's thin enough to actually write stuff down here. So I think what I'm going to do, I really don't want to use this. I don't really think that I do. Was Dove Grey, was it? It could always try, I could use it as a way to make myself be more concise. There we go. We're going to go with this one. Yeah, there's no grey paper, mate. Very rude. At least I don't have one. Let's put it that way. So write it down. It would be to add, highlight to task list, and use a signifier. So this is if I was adding it to a regular task list. At the moment, with my highlights, I've been just putting it at the top here. So the first thing that I write down in my daily log is my highlight. So for instance, video scripting. This one didn't happen, but video scripting did happen on Wednesday. It did happen on Tuesday. So I've just been putting them up there as a kind of way to put them in my journal. But if I was adding this to a regular task list, like on a weekly or something like that, we're just going to put it down as like, add it to the list, use a signifier. But that's kind of cute. So I think that this is good because it allows me to, at a glance, see the actual tactic, like, nice and easy. Yeah, beauty is pain. I love that. So I'm going to try and make sure that I don't completely munt this pen because I don't think that getting this pen again is going to be an easy feat for me because we don't really have a good stock, I suppose, of the Stettler Tri Plus fine liners, or at least the colors that aren't in the 20 pack. So, anywho. So that is the first one. I mean, we're now 25-ish minutes in. If you haven't already, Tink, make sure that you have a drink. But we've got one down. All is well. Okay. So, our next one is Groundhog It, which I will put in. So, 2 dot and then black Groundhog It. Make sure I spell groundhog correctly, because that'd be kind of embarrassing. Groundhog It. And then just do yesterday again. Nope. Okay, well, I put a bracket in, so now I'm just going to say do yesterday, which is fine, because I actually kind of like wherever possible, I would like the tactic to just stay on one line. So I'm all right with the abridged version of that. But the idea of groundhogging it is the idea of repeating it for a second chance, repeating it to build momentum, repeating it to build a habit, that kind of a thing. So if I want to groundhog it, I could, in theory, put it on some kind of a habit tracker. Or I could just write it out again. Like, that's fine. So I might write down, like, the reason that you might repeat it. So repeat to build momentum. Make, that's going to go there, so we need to be careful. Make a habit. I'm going to write or finish off effectively. Because for me, oftentimes when I groundhog something or like do something again for my highlight, it's because I didn't finish it the first day. All right. Number 3 is stack rank your life, and I am not going to write that one down because I know that that tactic doesn't really resonate with me. The nice part is, having done my August setup, spoilers if you haven't seen my August setup, is that I've already given myself a little make time tracker here, which already has the numbers that are the tactics that I actually kind of think would be valuable. The issue with these ones, though, is that they are specifically the ones that are the things that you would do every day, not the one-off things. So there are still some tactics that I'm going to have to write down that aren't on this list, but you can see, like, on here I've got number 1, number 2, number 4, number 7. So number 3 wasn't one that kind of resonated with me enough to warrant putting in this one, so I probably won't put it in this one. Even though I like things to be complete, it's just like, I know that's one that doesn't, it just doesn't gel with me, so there's not a lot of point in writing it down. The question was, where is my mouse? The second question was, which grey is that? And this is Dove Grey. It's one of the pens that I bought individually rather than as part of the 20 pack, which means that I probably got it in Australia, or this was sent to me, one of the two, because I know that some of the colours that I couldn't find were sent to me. I can't remember their name, but I was very, very appreciative. I'm pretty sure they like live in Germany, so it was a very kind thing of them to do. So number 4, we put it here, is to batch the little stuff, which is totally something that I like to do. Batch the little stuff. So if we open it up again, because they obviously have their own thoughts about what batching the little stuff means. So make a batch of small things as your big thing. Yep, that makes sense. Surprising satisfaction that comes from catching up. Also, if you get the audiobook, you don't get to see these little pictures, and these little pictures are really cute. So this is a once in a while tactic, dealing with necessary chores and other kind of stuff. All right, that seems reasonable. We have a question. Oh, I love questions. Are you trying a new tactic every day, or are you trying it for a week and reflecting on whether it works? So I have been picking 3 tactics every day, one related to the choice of the highlight or like, something related to the highlight, one related to the kind of focusing stage or making it easier to focus on my highlight, and one related to what's called energize, which is about kind of like maintaining energy so that you can tackle your highlight in a more productive way. So that's what I've been doing. But I also have been finding that some of the tactics I do without having selected them specifically. For instance, I've been writing down my highlight every single day, but if I choose that as my tactic that I'm focusing on every day, it feels like a bit of a cop-out, which is pretty much why every time I write down, I pick number 1, write it down, and then I reflect and say, this was a cop-out. So this one I picked, batching the little stuff, and I said kinda-ish, like I didn't do as good a job of it as I could have. For this one, this was the very first day. So I had number 1 as my tactic, let's write it down, and I said this works to hold me accountable. And then the second day I had schedule your highlight, and I said this is easy because it was somebody else's event, because it was related to an event. When it comes to August, though, because I know that some of these tactics I'm doing even though I haven't specifically selected them, I've put it in this kind of habit tracker. So I can tick off every day, like, did I write down my highlight today? Tick, tick, tick. And the idea here is not to do all of them, okay? Because that would be ridiculous. There are a lot of things here. I just want to see kind of an overview or a broader picture of which ones I'm leaning towards. And which ones maybe don't get as much play, that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of expecting that at the end of this month, August, number 1 is going to have a lot of ticks. Number 4 will probably have less. Like, it's just a way for me to kind of get an overview of how my use of the different tactics is going, I suppose. So, batch the little stuff. What were we saying? This is supposed to be a once in a while tactic, like kind of just bringing a whole bunch of necessary. So combine a list of smaller tasks, emphasis on smaller, into one list to tackle. I know what I meant by that. Doesn't sound quite as right now as I've written it out as I was thinking, but yeah, this is a general idea. Yeah. What's the title? Make Time. Yeah. So for anybody who missed it, talking about Make Time, Jake Knapp, John Zeratsky, right at the top here. Very good. Excellent book. Really, really enjoyed it. Because like I said, I like the fact that they've got all of this stuff that's just very practical. I love books that give me practical solutions to stuff rather than, they talk about like the importance of something, but then don't actually give you any way to implement it. That always pisses me off. Like, this book didn't do that. So that felt very good. Okay. So after this, we have, they have the might do list and the burner list. And that's because, maybe spoilers, I don't know, can you spoil a nonfiction book? They talk about how both of them don't really like to-do lists. I personally love to-do lists, so that didn't really bother me so much. But the might do list and the burner list are the way that they like to kind of tackle their what would be a traditional to-do list. I'm probably not going to write that down because I just don't really feel that is the way that I like to do my lists for task doing, so I might leave that one. But running a personal sprint, I will totally put down because that is something we love doing. We love a personal sprint. I should run more personal sprints because that would just be more helpful. For reference, we're not talking about actual running here because I don't know if you know, but Jess is not a runner. That sounds like a bad time for me. So run a personal sprint. And I think that the way that they talk about doing a sprint is okay, let's compare it to how we would do a sprint around here usually. Typically, when we do a sprint around these parts, around this corner of the internet, we would usually pick like maybe 3 to 6 hours, really depends. And we would do maybe a Pomodoro technique. So, 15 minutes of break, then 45 minutes of work, then 15 minutes of break, etc., etc. So all of those kind of little blocks of time follow each other, and we kind of get stuff done. When they talk about a personal sprint in the book, though, they're talking more about several days, and the idea of if you're working on, let's say, a project, you break it down into a different highlight for each day to get through the project that you're working on. All right, question was, are you going to post this video on YouTube? All of my live streams are typically available on YouTube after the fact. So yes, this one will still be here. So if you need to take pause, need to go get yourself a snack, go back to work, say, then it's all good. When you come back, it'll still be available. Yeah, like we're not actually running here though. Actual running is a hard pass. So having a look at their notes on personal sprinting, because again, they talk about the idea of breaking something down and doing it over multiple days. You can see that this obviously resonated with me because I highlighted a very large chunk of text. Alrighty, beginning project, your brain is like a computer starting up, loading relevant information. Yes, it is, all right? So, oh gosh, I love this book so much. They talk about the idea that every time you try and start a project or task or something like that, it gives this is a little bit of lag, right? You kind of have to like work your way into it. Whereas if you do a personal sprint, you don't have to do that reboot every single time, which is really, really nice. So they talk about it from a point of view of having worked in, I think, like the tech industry kind of stuff, and how they would go to companies that would hire them to come and talk to their team. And how they would run a project over a week with the department that they were working with or whatever. And because it was all done in that one span of time, you kind of don't give people the opportunity to phase out of focusing on the thing at hand. That sounds worse than it is. It's a very interesting concept. So run a personal sprint would be like select the series of related highlights, because this is all about choosing your highlight. And I need to make sure that okay, so you know how we drew that pencil line in before? The pencil line is in the middle, but my border is one over, so I keep on almost running over where I'm supposed to be drawing. So I'm going to put this in here so that then I know where I'm supposed to stop. There we go. Select a series of related highlights. Run over several days. Love it. Excellent. So that is the end of the section that's about choosing your highlight. We go back and have a look at our content page, sneaky. We can see that there are other tactics talked about in there, like, number 5 and 6 and 3, but they're not ones that I actually care to write down. Yeah. So I'm probably going to not write those ones down because I already missed the numbers, but we are going to have to put a box around our section here. Now, when I put the box around it in the purple one, how did I do it? Where are you, purple, my old friend? Okay, so I just put the highlighted line around the bottom one of each of these. Do I like that? I don't know. Maybe I'll bring it down like a smidgen further so it doesn't feel so tight on the bottom, I guess. So we can still put it around the outside. Where's my pen? Here's my pen. So choosing your highlight should come out of here, go down, and then around. And I'm just going to make it go a little bit further down than I would have on the last one, because I feel like it just needs a little bit more of a buffer. Yeah. We turn the book so that then we can draw the pen towards us in a way that is easier. Oh, beautiful. I love it. Look at the happy little box. God, it's so beautiful. Anyway, so Let's see. Alrighty, you could do it for Vlogmas, batch video editing, etc. Are we talking about running the personal sprints? Because yes, I could. I'm not sure what I'm doing for Vlogmas this year. I enjoy doing Vlogmas, so I'm gonna do something. So if you have any ideas for Vlogmas, I know we're a little while away, but it's always good to be prepared. But yes, there we go. Oh, the first little box is done. Super cute. Love it. Alrighty. So, the next section is making time for your highlight. Make time to make time. Anyways, moving right along. Make time for your highlight. We're going to put that here. Make time for... I'm just going to write highlight. Highlight. I can probably write your... Okay, we're gonna shove it in here. Highlight. There we go. It looks a little bit squished, but that's because I wanted to make sure it actually fit. I could do live mess of little streams. That'd be a cute idea. I probably won't be able to do it this year, only because I'm not home for Christmas this year. We're going to my parents' place. My parents live in Melbourne. So doing live streams from Melbourne would be a bit tricky, but I like the idea of that. We can maybe save that for 2024. That's next year, right? Yeah. Okay, so making time for your highlight. We have scheduling your highlight. That makes sense. Yeah, I think the pink marker looks real good around it, doesn't it? It's very cute. I'm very pleased. Number 8. Tactic number 8 is schedule your highlight. So one of the things that I actually have to be kind of careful with regards to setting up this layout is that oftentimes I will read the description of a tactic and I'll have my own kind of interpretation, I guess, so me saying groundhog it, I will immediately bring to mind a certain thought as related to what that means, but I want to make sure that in this tactics menu I'm writing down kind of more so like what they mean or the application of what they mean. So if we jump back into the book and we go to schedule your highlight. Alrighty, if you want to make time for your highlight, start with the calendar, writing down your highlights. Tactic could be simpler. It could hardly be simpler. I like this book. Alrighty, so think about how much time you want for your highlight. Think about when you want to do it. Put the highlight in your calendar. Nice. Okay, so it is pretty much what it means, or like how I would have interpreted it anyways, so all is good. I keep going back to here because I just like to see the list rather than scrolling through the whole book. So in terms of scheduling your highlight, it is just select amount of time needed and add block to your calendar. There we go. Keeping it simple. All right, the next one is block your calendar, which I haven't written down as one that I wanted to do in August. Why? Because I think that the way that they do block your calendar is just adding do not schedule blocks to make room for your calendar, for your highlight rather. And I don't necessarily need to do that because I pick my own schedule. I think that's mainly for people who work in, say, like an office kind of environment. So if you have a particular highlight that you want to work on that's, I assume work related because you're doing it at work, you would schedule a block of time on your calendar that effectively just means that you don't schedule other meetings in that time. Obviously, it's a little bit easier for people who have a bit more control over when they can or do or don't work kind of a thing. But one thing that they talk about is that, like, you need to make sure that you take it seriously, because if you don't take it seriously, other people won't. But it's quite interesting. I don't know if I necessarily need to write it down though, because I don't think that that's something that I would need to do. What do we want to do? Okay, stuff it. We're going to write it down anyway. It might actually be worthwhile because obviously we only have yay much space. And I don't want to have this box end, like, I don't know, there, and then have this tiny ass little piece of space afterwards. So we're going to jump back onto the contents page and actually just look through this section in particular and pick out the ones that I want to write down. So we have scheduling your highlight, we obviously already wrote in. Then we have block your calendar, bulldoze your calendar, flake it till you make it, just say no. Da-na-na-na. Design your day, become a morning person, nighttime is highlight time. Okay. So, you know how I mentioned before that they have the little pictures? So every so often they have what they call the tactic battle because they don't necessarily see eye to eye on it. Or they recognize that different tactics work better for different people. So they give you their two versions of something on any of the ones where, a certain route works for one of them and not the others. So this, Jake versus John, and then you've got like little Jay-Z here, which is I guess John Zeratsky, yeah. His the one about like becoming a morning person and how he worked on that. And then if we scroll down, you've got the one from scroll. You've got the one from Jake and about how Jake uses his nighttime as a highlight time because he tried to become a morning person and it just like straight up didn't work. But it's quite good. I like that part. The fact that they give you options. I mean, like, this is why we've got the tactic menu. So we have all of these different options written out. But anywho. So like I was saying before I distracted myself yet again, I want to write down possibly the block your calendar. Bulldoze your calendar, probably not. Flake it till you make it. I don't think I wrote that one down either, did I? Because I don't like flaking on things. Just say no, I probably need to write down. So I need to write down just say no. I will probably write down design your day because I like that. I don't know if I'm going to write down become a morning or a nighttime is highlight time. Maybe I will, because I've got enough space for it. And then quit when you're done, I do need to write down, because that one is a tactic that I would like to do more. Because that's, something that I'm not so good at. So we can at least write down, we're going to write down block your calendar, because we've got enough space for it. 9. Block your calendar. And again, we're just going to go and have a little small look at what they meant by this. Okay, so start with an empty calendar, schedule your highlight for the ideal time when your energy is the highest, and then focus is at its peak. Okay, that's good. I feel like I should highlight that. Scheduling. Is there a highlighter here? Excellent. This is why I like doing like e-reading and stuff, because I like to be able to highlight stuff. But I don't really feel super great about highlighting in an actual book. Like, I like the way it looks when other people do it. Not me. I can't trust myself. So schedule your highlight first. For when energy and focus is highest. I think that's also the nice part here is like they've specified that, when your energy is highest and your focus is at its peak. They're kind of not assuming that everybody works best in the morning or anybody like works best in the later afternoon or whatever. And gives us kind of the opportunity to check in with ourselves and say, hey, like, which part of my day is going to be the optimum for me to get stuff done? Good question for you guys. When do you feel like your day, like in the structure of your day, when do you think it is the best time for you to get things done? Because I'm I'm not too sure about mine, eh? Like sometimes in the morning I'm okay, but it has to be in the morning after I've gotten over like the grogginess kind of a thing. So maybe like 10 a.m. to 12-ish is probably my best time, but I can't do first thing in the morning. Like people who wake up at 5 a.m. and they're like, yeah, the first 2 hours of my day is my sacred time and I get everything done. I'm just like, I'm sorry. You want me to get up before 7? It's a no from me. So making time for your highlight, we had schedule your highlight, block your calendar, and then there was bulldoze your calendar, which is, yeah, it does specify that it's like it's much easier if you are the boss. If you can boss yourself up, then yeah, you can do the bulldozing of your calendar. A little bit tricky if you're not your own boss. For instance, like I think if you're a teacher, you can't really bulldoze your calendar because it's just like, yeah, I'm just not going to go to these classes. I'm just going to push all of my classes to the first like 2 hours of the day. Not really works. But yeah, use Bulldozer to stack your meetings on 1 or 2 days of the week, freeing up other days for solo work, which is kind of cool. So I think I might mention something about it because the idea of pushing specific work to specific days is actually kind of a good thing. Yeah, exactly. You get off at a specific time and it just makes it a little bit trickier to do some of these tactics. And that's why I like that they have so many, so you can pick the ones that fit your life. So bulldoze your calendar. Because yeah, I mean, going with the idea that my best work times, again, it really depends, but more often than not, it's like 10 to 12. Yeah. That's when I find getting into the flow state is a lot easier. And oftentimes, if I get into the flow state in that time range, I can make it till about 3 p.m. and still be working quite well. But yeah, it can be a little bit tricky navigating that around other stuff. Bulldoze your calendar. Because when I was a teacher, well, like, you know, I still consider myself a teacher, but when I was a teacher in the kind of traditional classroom sense, it's a little bit harder when you start, you know, you're in front of kids at 8:30 a.m. and your brain doesn't switch on till 10. Like, you're like, okay, cool. Sorry, morning classes. This is going to be a struggle for both of us. Yeah. Yeah, get things done by 11 p.m. Nice. Yeah, kids wake up at 4 a.m. Oh no. Yeah. Um, like you've said, yeah, I have done a previous energy tracker because I value knowing this kind of information about myself. So when are my like highest energy days and when are my highest energy times and stuff like that. What I need though, if I'm going to do that properly, because I have done it previously in a kind of more, what's the word, subjective sense. So yeah, subjective, is that if I don't have set descriptors for a scale, I find it very hard to scale things. So for instance, like with my level 10 life, I recently wrote up a proper kind of formal scale for the level 10 life so that I actually knew what a 7 versus a 6 was. It makes it a lot easier to actually rate areas of my life. Same idea for energy. So bulldozing your calendar, I'm going to take a little look. Pushing events around the bulldozer might compress one meeting into 15 minutes. So push things on your calendar to compact them in terms of time used and days. What's the word? Let's say, put it on blah, blah, blah. High time bulldozing. Push things on your calendar to compact them in terms of time used and, I mean, it's like I want to say days used as well, but that's not quite what I mean. But we're gonna write it down. because then I could have just written time and days used, but it's fine. So that's like, yeah, the general idea. They talk about, you could take a meeting that was scheduled for 30 minutes and say, hey, realistically, we only need 15. Let's just schedule it for 15 and keep it more on task. Or trying to move your meetings around so that all of the meetings fall on the same days of the week. So it's like, okay, Monday and Tuesdays are meeting days, which means that Wednesdays, Thursday, Fridays are open for other stuff. Or it could be something like pushing your lunch break half an hour later or earlier to make more time for your highlight, depending on when you've scheduled it for. All of that kind of thing. 100% Britta. I completely agree. Tink, all right? Taking a sip of our bevy. So, after this, we have flake it till you make it. And that's kind of bailing on stuff that you've already got. And I know that there is value in flaking on things, but they talk about specifically flaking stuff about, like, explaining while you're bailing and letting it go. It's not a good long-term strategy. I don't think it's really relevant for what I do, because if I'm flaking on something, it's usually a commitment that I've made to myself, and that's just kind of a shitty place to put myself in. So I'm not going to write that one down, but I am going to write down the stuff about just saying no, because I am not very good at just saying no. So 12. They also give some recommended wording, I suppose, like not recommended, but like kind of ideas for you if you want it, on like how to say no to something in a way that's kind of like firm but polite and doesn't invite kind of like back and forth, I suppose. Which I think could be very valuable for some people, because if you're like me, saying no to stuff can feel like you're letting people down. But realistically, we can't do everything. So just say no. And then underneath, I'm just going to write, just do it. No, we're going to actually put something else in. So it's like, be nice but honest. Be nice. It says, be nice but honest. If you want the offer again later, say so. Sometimes it's like, sometimes we get an invitation or a request or like something like that that sounds good, but it's just not the right season for it. Like, it's just not the right time for us to do that thing. So it's always a good opportunity to say, like, I really appreciate you thinking of me for this. Now isn't the right time, but please do ask me again next time this comes up, so that you've kind of put your intentions out there. All right, make the ending sweet. We want it to be authentic, not an empty add-on. All right, sounds good. Just want to check. Okay, so after this we have design your day. Scroll, and then we have the morning versus night person. And I don't know which ones of these I'm actually including. So let's have a little snoop, a little cheeky snoop. Okay, so we have done just say no. Then we have design your day and quit while you're done. Those are probably the two that I'm going to include. I'm not going to include becoming a morning and nighttime person, because I feel like those require more than just a one-line description of what I would actually do. And this tactic menu is kind of intended for it to be more of a short-term thing rather than a long-term thing. Yeah. So what number is it? Number 13 is design your day. Again. Design your day. Okay. And then after that, we'll do quit when you're done. Okay, so design your day. Random designs, Google Ventures. Yeah, because they used to work at Google. Keep track of ebbs and flows. Blocking your calendar and scheduling your highlight is a great way to make time. intentional mindset, and design your entire day. So it's effectively just like a time blocking your calendar to put everything in there. So like fully planning out how you're going to be doing stuff. They also talk about the idea of you can write out your plan and then have what actually happened and then do like a revised version. So as the day goes through, if you found that things aren't really happening the way that you intended them to, you can kind of adjust as you go, which is kind of nice. Again, I love this book. I love that they give you all these little kind of pictures and examples and stuff. It is worthwhile having a physical copy, in my opinion. Alrighty, scroll. Apologies for fast scrolling. So designing your day is really just kind of like mapping out your entire day in your calendar so that you know what's going on when. And we'll put that in as those words. So, mapping out your entire day on your calendar. Okay, and then the last one for that section, we said we were going to not do the morning and nighttime person. Scroll. We were going to do the quit when you're done, which is number 16. Nice. Quit when you're done. So the nice part about having, read through the book and having highlighted stuff is that when it comes to doing this tactic menu that we're making, I can just kind of mainly focus on my highlighted sections. So, here I've written the idea. I haven't written anything. I've highlighted. Look, it was written by me. No, not really. Okay. So working till exhaustion makes us more likely to fall behind, robbing us of the rest that we need to prioritize and do our best work. Fair. So ended each workday before people were exhausted. Alrighty. Excellent. So it's that effectively the idea of don't work until you're a haggard mess. Like work until you've gotten to that point where you're done for the day. Which makes sense because it says quit when you're done. So when should you quit? Instead of trying to answer every email, not happening, or finish every task, dream on. You need to create your own finish line. Perhaps you can find a perfect time of day to stop. In our design sprints, we use 5 p.m. Or you can use your highlight. Quitting time approaches. Think about whether you've accomplished your highlight. If you have, you can rest knowing that you've made time for the most important job. So how this is utilized is going to change, obviously, from person to person. But I'm just going to write stop before you're hella exhausted. And that is good enough for me. Okay, so now we are going to do our little pink box. And the nice part is that I finished this a line above. So I've got a little bit more space to actually put this in, which is good. We take it slow. We're doing things nice and intentionally. Oh, it's so beautiful. And we'll do the same on the other side. And we turn the book so that we can make a nice straight line, because I find pulling the pen towards myself is a lot easier than trying to draw horizontally across the page. Oh, it's gorgeous. And it fits perfectly, which is also very gorgeous. I'm always very satisfied when things fit nicely on the page. So we can get rid of the pencil because otherwise I will forget. That looks pretty cute. Make sure that if you are erasing pencil when you've just put pen on your page, that you allow the pen to dry. Thankfully, the Tombow dries pretty quickly, but we still want to be mindful because we don't want to smudge things. All right, so those are the first two sections. The next section of the book, I believe, after this, we get into talking about the laser stage. So, like we said before, we have the highlight stage. So that's like picking what it is that you're kind of focusing on for the day. And then we have the kind of focus stage. And the focus stage is called laser in the book. We see, let's see. Because I know there's a little picture that I can probably show you to kind of illustrate the point. So it's choosing your highlight. That's making time for your highlight. Laser, blaze, laser, blazer. There we go. Okay, here's a little chicky picky. So you can see that they talk about the idea of like you pick your highlight, you have your focus time, you then energize your laser, or you kind of do things that build your energy up so that you can make the most of your focus time. And then at the end of the day, you reflect on how useful the tactics were. So this is where that idea of, picking some of the tactics. Sorry, there's something on my page. Picking some of the tactics and, doing those, trying them on for size, and then you reflect to say like how much of a difference did this actually make. So that's what I've been doing in my setups here, which I haven't picked my one for today. Oh no, it's fine, I'll get around to it. But we go here, like, so for the 11th, my highlight for the day was video scripting. That's what I wanted to focus on. I then have a little space to rate, how was my focus out of 10? How was my energy out of 10? These are the 3 tactics I tried. And then this is my kind of reflection on how they went, that kind of stuff. And then underneath, with the little heart, that's just a little place for gratitude. Right? Because they talk about, a lot of places talk about the idea that putting gratitude into it helps you be mindful of the positive, or come at it from a lens of positivity rather than just focusing on the negative, I suppose. Because we're all prone to a negativity bias from time to time. But yes. Okay, so moving on to our laser section. So the first part of the laser section is about your phone and being the boss of our phones. Be the boss of your phone. So the ones that they have here are trying a distraction-free phone, which is more of a kind of like one-off thing that you would do rather than a daily tactic. Logging out, next notifications, clear home screen, wear a wristwatch. Again, that's more of a kind of one-off thing, I suppose. You just like make a conscious choice to do that, and then leave devices behind. So we're going to be the boss of your phone up here. Up here. Boink. You're having a lot of difficulties with your August meal log. Yeah, I've decided to move my meal logging to my daily layouts rather than having it on my monthly, just because I not so much didn't have enough space for it, but it felt kind of cramped, I suppose. What did I say? Be the boss of your phone. And we're going to put you here. Be the boss of your phone. Nice. All right. Ready. Tink. All right, we have a question. I love them questions. Alrighty. May not have an answer to, possibly. Alrighty. I have OCD surrounding to-do lists and getting things done. Do you think that this book would feed into that or help? The book honestly doesn't talk about to-do lists very much. So I can't say with certainty, because I'm not too sure, because I know that OCD is different for different people. But they don't talk about to-do lists all that much in the book, so I don't assume that it would be too much of a problem. But I think that the section where they actually do touch on to-do lists, maybe that would actually possibly be helpful, because they talk about their strategies to do to-do lists that aren't like a traditional to-do list, which is why I didn't write it down in here, because I like to-do lists in general. To-do lists for me are fine, so I didn't feel the need to write it down on my tactics menu. But they talk about their versions of it, which is one of them does a burner list, and one of them does a might do list. So the might do list is effectively they write out all of the things that they could do for something, and then they just pick one when they come to do their highlight for the related project. Whereas the other one, let's say, I don't even remember the section because I was like, this part isn't really for me. The might do list is that one, like we talked about, scroll, scroll, scroll. And then the burner list was about like the idea of your front burner, your back burner, and your counter space kind of a thing. So the front burner is like where the highlight for today does and kind of steps for the highlight. And then you've got the back burner being, your second most important thing that isn't really a focus right now, but something that you kind of, want in the back of your mind. And then counter space is just for expanding on the front burner, rather than just writing down other stuff, because other stuff goes in the kitchen sink. Everything else goes here. But I personally don't find issues with a to-do list, so I just use a to-do list. But yeah, this is a long-winded answer to hopefully help you out with that. Because I don't think that there's a lot in there about to-do lists, I don't think that it would be a problem, but you know yourself better than me, so. Let's see, we're on to the laser, we're on to be the boss of your phone, so try a distraction-free phone. I'm going to write it down because I think I would actually like to do this at some stage. Because as of current, if we open up the main phone, so my phone looks like this on the home screen. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of stuff on here, and then I've got some stuff over here too because I haven't moved things around. But I effectively wanted everything that I often open up to be just on one page because I just find it a little bit easier. And I've got some little folders here for stuff as well. But I wanted to try and have pretty much nothing on my second screen. They talk about how you should have nothing on your home screen. I know that that's number 20 is clear your home screen, but yeah, it's something I would like to try out. But for their distraction-free phone, I'm pretty sure they're talking about. Well, we'll go have a look at it in a second. Remember, Jess, you're not supposed to be assuming what they were talking about because, okay, if you're part of our book club, you already possibly know this, but I didn't start reading our June book club book, which was this book, until the last day of June. The very last day of June is when I was reading it, and it was like 5 p.m. on the very last day of June as well, because choices. I blame Monica. No, I'm kidding. I don't blame Monica. It's me. I'm the problem. Anywho. But I thus read it all very quickly and all in kind of one sitting. So I don't necessarily remember things as well as I could because I didn't give myself time to build up my learning in layers. Distraction free phone. So we are going to have to go and have a look at what that actually meant. Let's see. Try a distraction-free phone. So they talk about infinity pool apps and that idea of things that have like a, you can just like pull it down and continually refresh stuff. So it's just constantly bringing you new content. So things like Facebook and Netflix and YouTube, I suppose. Don't leave. That kind of stuff. So removing those apps is what they're kind of talking about here. Yeah, they used to call to me like the ring would call to Bilbo Baggins. I actually quite liked the quote that they used here. It's like, it would be a relief in a way not to be bothered with it anymore. Sometimes I felt it like an eye looking at me. Found I couldn't rest without it in my pocket. I kind of like the idea that kind of ties in with how a lot of us see our phones almost. Like when our phone isn't on our person, even if we're not really using it, we kind of just get to a little bit like of a discomfort place. I thought that was interesting. But anyhow. So they removed infinity pools. So that's why they have distraction-free phones. So I guess I'll put that in. I don't think I will necessarily remove all of my infinity pools because I kind of like my infinity pools. Also, a lot of the infinity pools that we use are kind of my job. So yeah, anyways. But we're going to put down remove infinity. I'm not going to write down and beyond, but I'm thinking it. Infinity pool apps from your phone. Because I think that my phone could use a bit of a tidy up. There are some apps on there that really just don't need to be there in general. So after try distraction-free phone, scrolling. Obviously, they talk about a lot of stuff in here, which I have summarized in remove infinity pools. Logging out of apps is not a bad idea, so we will write that down. It's that idea of just building friction in to using these things. Every time that you jump onto, I'm just going to use Facebook as an example. Every time I jump onto Facebook, because it's already logged in, it's very easy to just start scrolling and just get into doom scroll kind of loop or whatever. Whereas if I have signed myself out of it, then there's just that one extra step that I have to take. And it gives myself an opportunity to be like, hey, do you actually want to be here, or did you just open this because you were on autopilot? They also talk about the idea of not using auto-populate for the passwords for those apps as well, and making the password something that's really hard to remember. So you don't have to, or rather, you can't necessarily remember off the top of your head what the password would be, so you'd have to go and look it up, which is just another kind of step of friction. So we're just going to write that in. Add friction to using infinity pools. By logging out. Yeah. All right. Ooh. Sorry. My game changer has been setting timers on social media and games. I feel like I have it in my hands all the time anymore. Well, that's good. Yeah, no, for sure. I have an extension on my Google Chrome, because I use Chrome, that's called Stay Focused, and I think it's Stay Focused without the E on focused. So it's focused. But that one you can set a specific timer for how much, or a limit, I suppose, that you want for how much time you can spend on certain websites and stuff like that. So it has a daily limit option, but it also has the option of what's called going nuclear, which means that it just says that for a specified amount of time, which you specify, you're not allowed on certain websites. So I would add it, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, whatever. When I want to get things done, and I find myself just constantly going back to these apps and just scrolling because my mind doesn't want to do the thing that I, in theory, should be doing. But it is very helpful for those instances where I just let myself go on autopilot and just automatically open up Facebook or whatever and stuff like that. Because it just kind of brings up this screen that says, shouldn't you be working? I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks, computer, for, shaming me right now. Next, notifications. So, next thing, notifications is just, turning them all off, effectively. Yeah, I do like the line that they say, teach your phone some manners. They're just constantly running their mouth and interrupting your day. So, turn off notifications for... I'm just going to write your noisy apps. And by noisy, I don't necessarily mean that they actually make a noise, because, if you're anything like me, your phone is constantly on silent mode because, noises. But anything that kind of would bring up a notification on your home screen, or it would give you a little badge or anything like that. So I don't have a lot of apps that I allow to have notifications on my home screen, but I do have a few that are allowed to have badges, like Threads is allowed badges, and those guys are. Okay, frustrating point. So you see how there's this little, notification here? I can't get it to go away, and I don't have any unread messages that I know of. So I'm like, just leave me alone. Ah! Anywho, so 20 though is clear your home screen. Oh, don't have a dot there. Need a dot there. Boink. Clear your home screen. Nice. So part of the reason that I've decided to put this in here rather than just keeping the digital copy is that I kind of want to slowly over time build in this kind of habit of setting up my day in my journal away from my computer. And because I do ebooks, and usually I have them on my computer, I would typically have my, to pick my tactics for the day, I would typically open up my computer and be on that to go through and select which ones I wanted to kind of focus on for the day, which is fine. But then, the entire kind of computer is like an infinity pool of just a whole bunch of different places that I could go and get lost and end up not focused on what I'm trying to do. So I figured if I have it in my book, like an analog copy, there's a lot less distractions in this. So when I'm going through and trying to pick out which of my tactics I want to do, I have this reference that isn't going to distract me, is the general idea. Think. Yeah. See, I can follow instructions sometimes. Maybe the notification is from your message requests. That's a good point. I should probably check that. Did you check calls and stories or message requests? Okay, alrighty. Maybe it's a message request. I'm not very good at remembering to check those. Okay, I do have a message request, but it's from the 25th of November, and they unsent it. So, probably okay. Oh, wait, there's also a spam folder. Oh, okay. No, that's from February. And it's just, wow. I love this. Hey, how are you? Hey, calm down. And yeah, that's something. Does it change anything? No, it's still just a little red ball of sadness. That's a future me problem though. So, clearing your home screen. This is where they talk about the idea that I shouldn't, in theory, have all of my different apps here. So they talk about making this completely clear, and it also gives you an opportunity to view your picture, which I obviously don't have one because I have all of this stuff on here. My actual picture is my little chess piece. It's cute. My little calendar, so that I don't have to go and find the calendar app to see what day of the month I'm on and that kind of thing. It just makes it a little easier. So remove all apps from the first screen you see. There we go. The next one is wear a wristwatch. I don't see the need to. I think the idea with that one, though, is that you have a portable clock. Like, you don't have to get your phone out to check the time. You can just check your wristwatch, which I already have one, so I don't really feel the need to write down wearing a wristwatch. Then there's leave devices behind, which just unsettles me out of my mind, so I'm not going to write that one down either. Also, then look, it ends at the same place. Okay, that's not a reason to do that, but it doesn't upset me. Because after this section, the next one is talking about staying out of infinity pools, which I'm not so good at. And there we go. Make sure we curve it at the right place, because otherwise that would be sad. One of the things that makes me a little unsettled about using such a saturated pink is that if I stuff up, it's really super noticeable. I mean, we have already seen that mistakes are fixable, so that is totally fine. Like, we can fix it if we make a mistake, but I'd rather just, like, not make a mistake in the first place. That's the nice part about using these really pale lines, is that if they do get a little bit wobbly, because they are as faint as they are, it doesn't stand out as much. Whereas these ones, getting a little bit wobbly is a little bit more noticeable because it's just a bit more saturated. So if you are trying to do the every second line highlighted trick, my recommendation is to use a super pale color because it's really hard to see if you do stuff up. Yeah. All right. So after all this no infinity pools talk, I don't think I want to read this book after all. No, it's totally worthwhile. You know, and it's the kind of thing, I'm not going to stay out of infinity pools indefinitely. 100% not. Again, this is my job. Like, my job is to feed the infinity pool machine, or, you know, come and hang out with you fine folks. But when it comes to actually getting stuff done, they do very much distract me, like constantly, like, I'll just open up Facebook to check that message from that one person, but then as soon as I open it up, I see something else, and then I'm like, I should just go and check this group thing, and then rah. And then I get off the app, and I remember what I was actually supposed to be there for, and I get very frustrated. It's kind of like when you walk into a room and you forget why you walked in there, so you leave the room, and then you remember, and then you go back, all of that kind of thing. Exactly the same idea with things like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. Problematic. So, in terms of our staying out of infinity pools, because that is our next section, we have a variety to pick from here. So, stay out of infinity pools. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Yeah, 100%. Like, sometimes we need the infinity pool, right? We want that. But, like, when you're trying to get stuff done, not so much. When you're trying to just, you know, be a little bit brain dead and go a little bit mindless, like, for sure, 100% love it. Also, like, a lot of the time, I don't know about you guys, but when I go to YouTube, it's usually to learn something. Is typically why I go there, is to learn something or to put on something that can help me do something else. You know, like I'll put on somebody else's live stream so that I have somebody kind of chatting away while I'm trying to work on something. Give me a like if that's you right now. But you know, that's usually why I'm there. It's not because I'm there to intentionally distract myself. There's oftentimes, or rather, there's not so many times where I intentionally try and distract myself. But Facebook and Instagram in particular are probably like my kryptonite. Which, talking about that, block distraction kryptonite. We will get to that in a second. Skipping the morning check-in though, 100% that one should be on my list because oof. So 23, we said. Really? What was 22 and 20? Oh, no, that was the watch and the devices made me uncomfy. So 23. Poink. Skip the morning check-in. Secondary question. When you check your phone in the morning, all right, it's fine. We all do it. Unless you're, I don't know, a wizard. So when you check your phone in the morning, what's the first app you open? You know, for me, it's oftentimes Discord, because I go and check in with our Discord server and make sure everybody's having a good time. But after that, it's usually then something like email or Instagram, like whatever has a badge. Whatever has a badge. Skip the morning check-in. But the problem is that it is literally the first thing I do. Like, I roll over, I open up my phone, and I jump on my Discord. I would make it a poll, but there are so many options that I don't think that 5 poll options is going to be enough. Like, oh, your baby tracking to see how long your baby has slept? That's very sweet. Let's see. Yep. She's your alarm clock. Discord for you. Fair weather app. Nice. Alrighty. Yep. It's always good to check in with our weather, especially, given the whole breathing thing you mentioned. Weather or news, then Facebook, solid. All right. It's very interesting. I mean, like, a lot of us kind of we fall victim to the same kind of stuff, but the specifics of it look a little different, which is always curious to me. So skipping the morning check-in, boom, it's a clickable. I love clickable. Yeah, as soon as you fire up that screen, you start a tug of war of attention between the present moment and everything out there on the internet. This is my struggle. Yeah, so I will set myself intentions for the day the night before, or at least I try to, and then because I check in with my phone in the morning, all of those priorities that I set for myself usually just get put on the back burner to deal with whatever I've just seen, which isn't always a bad thing. Like, it's not necessarily a negative thing that I'm trying to, deal with things in a timely manner or whatnot, but it can often come at the expense of the stuff that I've already set myself as a priority. How's my Threads addiction going? Pretty good. I'm not as addicted to Threads as I thought I was going to be, which is okay. I kind of eased off on it. I mean, reading the news. I don't read the news, but like hearing the chatter, it seems that that's kind of a similar thing. I think that we have a whole bunch of people who have jumped onto Threads, but they're not necessarily using it all that much, but it's not too bad. Alrighty, so skipping the morning check-in. What do I want to write for this? Don't make checking infinity pools your first daily task. That's the long story short of it. Like, they obviously go into more detail about why you don't want to do that. But yeah. Number 24, though. This is one that I really should pay more attention to. I mean, there's so many shoulds. Get out of here with your shoulds, Jessica. All right. But this one is block distraction kryptonite. Block distraction kryptonite. And this would be actually a very good idea for Facebook notifications, because I'm pretty sure those ones still come up on my phone home screen. And a lot of them are pointless. Okay, side note, I have this issue. I have a problem. So my Facebook, for some reason, I don't know how it's done this, but every time somebody messages me on Instagram, I get a notification, like a little badge. Actually, I don't often get a badge, but I get a badge because I get badges on Facebook and somebody messaged me on Instagram and it shows up in my Facebook notifications. I end up waking up with like something like 15 or whatever notifications on Facebook, and 14 of them are just saying, hey, you got an Instagram message. I'm like, why? I don't know how to turn it off. I've tried. I've failed repeatedly. I don't know what to do about it, and it's peeving me off. Like, let's see if I can show you what I mean without, I don't know, divulging informations. Probably not, because it's probably just going to be a plonker. But yeah, I've just found that, yeah, see, like a message, sent a message kind of a thing, and they're all from Instagram. They're not from Facebook. So I don't know how I've done that. It's a fairly recent-ish kind of addition. I say recent-ish, it's like been at least a couple of months, I swear, but it has frustrated me. It continues to frustrate me. Anywho, so blocking distraction kryptonite. Let's go have a read. So these are the ones that, you spend a few minutes, or more likely a few minutes to become an hour with this website or app, you feel regret. It's probably kryptonite. So these are the ones that every time you use this infinity pool, we have one especially powerful infinity pool that we just can't resist. So it completely overwhelms us, completely sucks us in. I didn't end up highlighting anything else, but those ones in particular are the ones that we might want to block distractions from. So I'm just going to write block apps that are a particular area of weakness for you. So I think for me, it's probably going to end up being Facebook. Let's see. See, the issue with the connecting versus disconnecting is that I'm pretty sure that the connection is already there, just so that then if I post something to Instagram, I can have it post on my feed on Facebook, which I do like. I just don't like that it comes through with all the notifications too. And I've tried to change the notification settings in Meta, and by that I mean Facebook. And I've tried to change the notifications in Instagram, and they just don't seem to want to play the game. Grr. Grr. All right, so for the next one, we have ignore the news. I already ignored the news, so there's not really a lot of point in writing that down. Number 26, though, is put your toys away. And that is something that I'm not very good at. I don't typically turn my computer off because I like to be able to come to my computer at the start of the day and already have everything that I want to use open. But they talk about the idea that when you do that, everything's right in front of you. It kind of just pulls your attention, so you don't necessarily get to start with intention at the start of your day. It's just whatever is left lingering there from the day or night before or whatever. So put your toys away. Your brother just went back to a flip phone. That's awesome. I don't think I'd be able to do it, eh? I mean, of course, I could do it, but I don't think I would enjoy it. Let's see, number 26. Okay, so close tabs and apps at the end of each day. Yeah. The idea of what we react to what's in front of us, kind of a thing, rather than being able to kind of make a choice with intention at the start of the day, which is something that I totally find to be an issue. Number 27 is fly without Wi-Fi. I don't really fly all that often, so it's probably not an issue. Wait, is it actually about flying? Yes, it is actually about flying. There's also putting a timer on the internet. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. But again, that's the nice part about the book. They give you a whole bunch of options, and you just pick and choose the ones that actually work. One of the things that they talk about is that one of the tactics that somebody has used previously is canceling their internet. So anytime that they want to use the internet, they have to hotspot their phone, which is obviously a pretty extreme tactic. But if you just can't, if you don't need to use the internet that much for the stuff that you actually need to do, then it's not necessarily a bad idea. Let's see. Number 30, though, is watching out for time creators. 100%. Watch out for time creators. I really liked this one. I thought this was a cool idea. So the example they use is for Twitter, which I don't really use Twitter, but I think that something in particular that resonated with me was an example that they gave regarding Twitter. So they talk about the idea that Jake posts on Twitter and takes about 2 minutes, kind of a thing. So he, writes his post, puts a post up, and then, over the next half hour, he comes back to Twitter 4 or so times just to check in with how his tweet is going. So each time he's checking in, he's using more, of his time effectively to relate to this tweet. And then after about half an hour, he's like, oh, okay, this tweet got traction. The dopamine from that has kind of worn off. So maybe I'll compose another tweet, which takes another however many minutes. So over the course of this like period of time, he has, you know, had this 2-minute tweet that turned into like maybe a half-hour kind of like time suck. So very small task, very big impact in terms of kind of blowing out time in his day. The question came up again. We are talking about Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky, as indicated by the header at the top of the page. But yeah, so talking about that was quite interesting. That like these tiny things that we put into our day, which end up kind of really costing us in terms of time. So that was pretty interesting. So a quick 15-minute burrito lunch might cost an extra 3 hours of food coma. Like is something that they kind of gave as another example. So it's effectively just like avoid small tasks that end up sucking up much larger periods of time in your day. I think sometimes this is also a positive thing too. Like, I mean, okay, it's the outcome is still not great, but we would maybe start a task for a positive reason, and it would end up sucking up time in our day in a negative way. Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example, but like, okay, let's just say that one of the things that I wanted to do was swatch a new 5-pack of pens. Yeah. So I have a 5-pack of pens that I want to swatch in my journal. It's not going to take that long. But as I do it, I start to realize, hey, there are other pens that I also need to swatch. Or, hey, actually, I think I need to put labels on these pens now, or like something like that. So something that would have maybe taken maybe about 5-ish minutes has blown out to like an hour and a half or something like that. I don't know why, but my mind just comes to the idea of cleaning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wipe up the bench. But then when I wipe up the bench, I notice that the tap needs to be like really thoroughly cleaned off and polished. But if I'm going to bother doing that, then I might as go, well, do all of the taps in the house. So it kind of like snowballs into this much, much bigger thing, even though the initial task was a positive thing. So just kind of not to say don't do the positive thing, but more so don't let it steamroll into this like big thing that just like takes up a huge chunk of our day. So we then have okay, we have a couple more. Yeah, so we've got 2 more for this section, I think, and that would be number 31, trade fake wins for real wins. Give a mouse a cookie? I don't think I understand that reference. Is the cookie bigger than the mouse? Is that the issue? I'm confused. Let's see. So 31, trade fake wins for real wins. Trade wins for real wins. Okay, so in this one, they talk about the idea that, sharing tweets, Facebook updates, and Instagram photos can create time creators. Yep, we already know that. But they're also dangerous because they are fake wins. So contributing to the internet conversation feels like an accomplishment because like, yeah, we did some work, but also not so much. I loved this one here. The idea of updating a spreadsheet is a fake win if it helps you procrastinate on the harder but more meaningful project. And the best part is that while I was reading this, I had taken a very small amount of time out to set up a very small spreadsheet to track my progress in the book so that I could feel like I was actually, making progress on it. Like I said, I started this at 5 p.m. on the very last day of the month. So I was every so often going in and updating how many pages I've read. And then I got to that little section right after having updated it, I'm like, wow, this book is attacking me. I feel called out. So updating a spreadsheet is a fake win. But let's see. Your highlight is the real win. So just avoiding things that feel like accomplishments, but realistically aren't. Yeah. Let's see. Tink. You guys are talking about Atomic Habits. I love Atomic Habits. It was a really good book. I really liked that one too. Which I also want to put in this book here. Like, where we go? We flip back to my collection ideas. Atomic Habits reference is one of the things that I want to put in this notebook at some point. So trading fake wins for real wins. We need a little blurb for that. Maybe. Yeah. I guess it's just like remember that your highlight is the priority. Now I'm going to write not Insta updates because that's just an example that seems a little bit more relevant. Because I could say, like, not status updates on Facebook, but I'm like, I don't really post status updates on Facebook, so there's not much point in adding that in as an example for myself in my own reference list, you know? Number 30, bam, 2. 32. Number 32. Okay, so 32 is use distractions, or rather use distractions. Turn distractions into tools. What did they mean by this? Turn distractions into tools. Oh, I'm very satisfied with how this is turning out. I'm very, very happy. Can you read the headers of the boxes? It's just the color and the white. Oh, so choose your highlight. Make time for your highlight. Be the boss of your phone and stay out of infinity pools are the ones that we have so far. Let's see. We have turn distractions into tools. So it's talking about like why we use particular apps, thinking about how much time per week you want to spend on that activity. Consider when you'd like to use that app to achieve your goal. They also make reference to other tactics that you can bundle things with, and they give the little numbers for them, which is why it's important that I've got these numbers on them. Let's see. Infinity pools, blah, 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 distractions. Doesn't mean they're not without value. So I guess it's just like when you focus on an app's purpose, you can change the relationship with it. Okay, so focus on each app's purpose. And that's probably enough for that. Like, if I want more of an elaboration for any of these, really, I can just go back and reread those sections. That's the nice part, is that this book was really short, and there's not a lot of fluff, which is really good. Hi, Tina. I'm glad that you're here, even if only for a small amount. We miss you. Me. And welcome back, Tina. And I was like, for when you come back to watch your replay. So we will go down nice and carefully. So there is technically, I think, one more in this section, but it's one that doesn't really relate to me so much. Because we cut across there, looking cute. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, Tina, we miss you. Yeah, a short, no fluff book. We love it. We love short, no fluff books. I love books that are like good with the information, don't have a lot of extra blah, and give you genuine, like, helpful tips, yeah? Things that you can actually do. So the last one in this section is becoming a fair weather fan, and it's more about for people who indulge in sports content, and how like getting, we love being passionate about things, being passionate about like your team and how they're doing, and you can get very like warped into like the statistics of stuff and the analysis and all of this, and it can become a very large time sink. They talk about like if you become a fair weather fan, so you only let yourself focus on it when things are going well, because oftentimes when things are not going so well, that's when you like dwell and stuff like this. So that's something that they talk about. But as someone who doesn't really consume a lot of sport, I don't really need to put that one on here. The question was, having not read the book, wouldn't some of these fake wins be motivation for a big win? Where did we put that? It's like somewhere in here, but I feel like I'm having a hard time reading stuff. Whee. There we go. Having not read the book, wouldn't some of those fake wins be motivation for the big, real win? It really depends on what your big win is, I guess. Like, let's say, if we take a fake win of posting an Instagram story, all right, and depending on the story that we're posting, it could take a little while, or it could be very, very quick. But regardless of that, once you've posted it, you're like, yeah, I did something. Like, it felt like an achievement in some way, even though it's really, really small. But I guess the question we have to ask is like, one, is it actually related to the highlight? The thing that we chose for the day that we were actually going to work on. And then secondly, is it actually moving the needle? Yeah. So for instance, my highlight for today, I haven't actually picked my highlight for today. We'll use a highlight from a different day. It'll be a little bit easier. So my highlight for yesterday. Where is yesterday? Yesterday? What's the date today? It's not the 10th. Come on, Jess. My highlight for yesterday was weekly menu drafts. Admittedly, that highlight was set a little bit prematurely because I forgot that there were some other action steps that I had to do before that. So we're going to actually say that this was a weekly menu template. Like, the small win of feeling like I accomplished something by posting something on my Instagram story, or putting a post in the community tab or something like that. It helps to build community, yes, but it is not related to the thing that I actually wanted to achieve yesterday, if that kind of makes sense. So on some days, it'll be related, Instagram posts and all of that kind of stuff. But on other days, not so much. Like, if my focus is video scripting, posting on the community tab is only going to be helpful for video scripting if I'm asking a question as related to video scripting. For instance, let's just say that I'm scripting a video on things to consider when you're about to purchase a notebook. Yeah. If I post on the community tab saying, hey guys, what things do you consider when you're about to purchase a notebook? Like, what kind of features are you looking for? That kind of stuff. That can be helpful. But if I'm posting a status update that says like, hey guys, it's, I don't know, a quarter of the way through the month, so if you haven't set up for July yet, then here's a easy theme idea. Like, it's not wrong to have posted it, and it would still feel like an accomplishment or a win, and I'll possibly get some like views from that or whatever, but it's not actually related to the scripting, if that kind of makes sense. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. Alrighty, so since you've been using dailies, are you worried about running out of pages? I love dailies and I have a separate notebook for these. I am not really all that worried, but that's because I already knew going into this notebook that it was only going to last me 3 months. So, as a complete side note here, but August is going to be the last month in this notebook, and I kind of counted out the rest of the pages remaining, saying like, oh yeah, okay, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, So I was like, okay, I need to do 2 daily logs per page so that I have enough spaces left. But then I'd forgot that I had counted per spread, not per page. So I was like 2, 4. So that should be like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I went and ruled all of these lines. So frustrating. I need to figure out something with that. But no, I haven't worried so much about space because I already knew going into this notebook that it wasn't going to last very long because it's got less pages anyways. when it gets to the square, that will be an interesting project because haven't used a square before, and two, not too sure which square notebook I'm going with and how many pages it has and what kind of start of journal setup stuff I want to include. I know that last year in my notebook, my last notebook of the year last year was a B6, and that one I ran out of pages with, and I couldn't include November in the notebook. That bummed me out. But we shouldn't have that problem. We shouldn't have that problem this year. It should be okay. So, up to the next section. It is Slow Your Inbox, which is obviously all about email. For this one, we're not going to start at the same height. We're going to go all the way to the top because there's no header on this page, so I don't need to do that. So we're going to put that one up here. Slow your inbox. And for this one, we again have a little set of tactics. Which ones did I actually pick? Okay, so the ones that I had specified as stuff to keep track of in August were 35, so schedule email time, and 38, be slow to respond. And then after that, it's on to 49, so I didn't do any of the other ones. So, but remember, these ones were picked because they're specifically things that I can do each and every day. So we're still going to go through the list and just double check that there's no other ones that I want to include. But deal with emails at the end of the day and schedule email time. I kind of saw them as similar things, which is why I just combined them into 35. Felt a little bit easier. But I will write them both down because I think that there are different reasons for doing each of them. So it's worth writing both of them down. So 34. I will say, I was a little bit apprehensive about using the gray pen to start with, but I think this looks really good. I'm very pleased with how this is turning out. Deal with email at the end of the day. Deal with email at the end. Oh, we're going to have to go of the day. I was trying to put it all on one line, but it didn't turn out that way, which is annoying because then I've written at the, like, one word, which is not quite what I wanted, but it is okay. Deal with email at the end of the day. So this one says, you probably have less energy at the end of the day and less tempted to overcommit. I actually love that. I thought that that was a really good kind of like bonus win, I guess, for doing your email at the end of the day. I'm going to write that down because I like that. You'll be more tired and thus less likely to overcommit. Commit has 2 M's, yeah? Yep. Nice. Less likely to overcommit. Thank you for being here while you could be, Tina. Look forward to having you on the replay. So the book isn't necessarily geared towards entrepreneurs. No, not so much, because these guys aren't entrepreneurs. They were people who worked in the tech industry, but they talk about the idea that, like, not all tips are for all people. Like, some tips are going to be better for certain, professions and whatnot. But that's why they give you multiple options for stuff. So you pick the ones that you want and you leave the ones that you can't use. For instance, previously we talked about the idea that, like, bulldozing your calendar straight up does not work if you don't have full control over when you're allowed, like, quote, allowed to do things. So specifically for me, teaching, that's where I came from. It would not be practical for me as a teacher to be able to bulldoze my calendar. But now as I work for myself, I can bulldoze my calendar. So it's, I'm just writing down the ones that for me I could do, or the ones that are relevant to my stuff. But that's also in part why I wanted to put this in here. So it's like I'm stripping out all of the tactics that I couldn't do or that wouldn't work for me, and I'm just writing down the ones that would. So I would be able to deal with my emails at the end of the day. Also, in part, helped that a lot of the emails I get are from people who are overseas anyways, so there's always going to be a time delay. Like, I'll get emails at 3 a.m. and I'm like, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. to respond to you in a prompt manner. But yeah, obviously, in some professions, emails are a little bit more time sensitive, and you can't necessarily deal with your emails just at the end of the day. But schedule email time. So this one is kind of like a little bit of a task batching kind of thing. So rather than dealing with your emails like as they come in throughout the day, so it's like, oh, you're focusing on one thing and then your focus drops because you had to check an email, and then you're back to that thing that you were focusing on and your focus drops because you have to check another email. So if possible, if your profession allows it, then being able to bundle them all together and do them all at once is kind of nice. So they said effectively put a check email or respond to email or deal with email block on your calendar. But yeah. Then the next one we talk about is emptying your inbox once a week, which I already do. Like, I call it inbox zero. I'm pretty sure that terminology came from David Allen, like getting things done. I haven't actually read the book. That's a future me problem. But having a set day of the week that I intentionally go through my inbox and make sure that it's cleared out is very helpful for me. So stops the build-up. Empty your inbox once a week. There we go. Yeah. You keep your unreads at 0, but not your inbox at 0 because the email sent with financial codes. Yeah, fair. I have a tendency to, rather than trying and getting every single thing out of my inbox, the only things I leave in there are things that I need to action, but don't necessarily need to action right away, if that kind of makes sense. And I usually try and keep that to the smallest possible number. Otherwise, it's like, oh, cool, great. Now my email inbox is a to-do list. I also make a lot of use of folders in my email. So if there's something that I want to action that's kind of related to a series of emails, I'll just put all of those emails into a particular folder. Or if it's a reference material of a particular type, I'll put it into a specific folder. So like, for instance, I've got one for social events. So if I get kind of a digital invite to something, or what's the word? Where you go out for dinner, yeah? Like, if I have a reservation, confirmation, booking, or something like that, like, those will all go into a single folder. So then my kind of inbox, or like the home screen, is just a little bit easier to navigate and get through all of the other stuff. So I'm just gonna write inbox 0 on one specific day. Done. Now, the next one that they talk about is pretending that messages are letters. I don't really remember reading about this. All right, a lot of emails come from thinking you need to constantly check and immediately respond. Yep. Treating them like old-fashioned letters. Most letters sit on your desk for a while before you do anything. So it's effectively like slowing down, seeing your emails as a fancy, dressed-up, high-tech version of regular old mail. So that's more of a mindset thing. And then this is more of a actually doing stuff. So like online, anyone, yeah, this line I quite liked. So online, anyone can contact you, not just the highly relevant people in your physical vicinity. They have questions about their priorities, not yours, when it's convenient for them, not you. So I quite liked the little kind of like mind shift kind of thing. But yeah, I'm interested in that. Let's see. Do I want to write down be slow to respond? It's not a bad thing to write down because typically, and not even necessarily with email, it's also with comments. Like as soon as I get a comment, I'm just like, oh, I need to respond to that. I'm like, you're allowed to take a little bit of time on this. I know that people value having fast responses, but if it comes at the expense of me getting my highlight done, then is it really the best course of action? Also, tink. Oh, good question. We love a good question. So do you already have square journals in your collection, or you'll need to order one regardless? I do currently have some square journals, 2, I think. But I think I might be worried about them. Let's go see. It's a good opportunity to stretch my legs. Oh no. So I have 2 blue journals, but I'm a little bit apprehensive as to whether I want to use them. And I'll give you guys 3 guesses as to why you think I might be apprehensive about using them. Yeah, exactly. They're Blue Joes. So I don't even know how I do this to myself. Like, how? But yeah, I have these 2, and I also have another one, but it's the Piper's Art one, which means it's a blank journal. So I'm either going to use a Blue Joe, or I'm going to have to buy a new one, because I don't know how I managed to make it that I'm just got so many blue bloody notebooks. So okay, I think this calls for a poll. All right. So the poll is, should Jess use the Blue Joe? Blue Joe. And then the answers are yes and no. Get a new one. Yes. Shop your stash. Okay, so those are the 2 options. Should I get a new journal that isn't blue, or should I just deal with it and use the Blue Joe? Because limiting myself to 1 Blue Joe a year is probably a good idea. See, that's a good question. When is the autumn release? Yeah, I feel like I am the Blue Joe rep. That's it. When is the autumn release? I know, right? I wanna know so that then I can save intentionally. Alrighty, let's see. Okay, the poll says that then I should shop my stash. Wow, you guys are very financially sensible. How dare you? So 67% of people who have voted thus far say that I should just shop my stash and use one of the Blue Joes. Like, I know, right? Bloody Blue Joes. Grrg. Yeah, you guys with your sensibility. So annoying. Not letting me shop. See, that's also a great question. You know, does the Blue Joe bring me joy, or does it cause me stress? Yeah, the responsibility. How dare you? Yeah, I think that, like, the both of them are very cute notebooks. Like, I do like both of them. I think if I was going to pick one, I'd probably lean towards the Narwhal one. I think I because I've already used a notebook that has this cover on it anyway. But I do quite like this one. I think it's quite a pretty color, but I don't know. I'm undecided. That is also a future me problem. I'm probably starting my new journal in September. Like, it feels like I only just started this guy here, because I really did only just start this guy here, but yeah. Why spend money if you aren't sure about the process? I mean, that is completely fair. It's a very reasonable reason to not necessarily go and buy a new one. But I have a weakness for journals. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Like, you could trade it with a friend if they have square journals. That'd be, yeah, if they have an empty square journal that I could trade them with. Okay, so what we're writing here, we're writing be slow to respond. Yeah. The internet continues to be a pain. I'm sorry to hear that, Deb. Glad that you had a good birthday, though. It was Deb's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Deb, for yesterday. Happy birthday to you. Alrighty, so be slow to respond. What do we want to do right here for this? I'm kind of just having a little look at the book to see if there's anything that jumps out as something that I could write in these 2 lines that I have for it. Yeah, change my default. Yeah. Let's see. Every time you check your email and other message service, you're basically saying, does any random person need my time right now? If you respond right away, you're sending another signal to them and yourself that I'll stop what I'm doing to put other people's priorities ahead of mine no matter who they are or what they want. Oh, that hits home. That's a bit harsh, but okay, we'll highlight it. Oof. Just oof. So, yeah, okay, cool. Putting, put your priorities ahead of insert random message here. I like this book. I know I already said that 27 times, but I like this book. Let's see. Ooh, okay. Black Bujoes. I don't mind a black Bujo. Black Bujo's nice. Like literally just in your shelves trying to look. Let's say, oh, you have a black Bujo with a gold crescent moon. I like the gold crescent moon design. I think it's very flippin' cute. I mean, if you want like, you know, to do a little cheeky swap, you just let me know. And then I won't have so many bloody Blue Joes. I'll have a Blue Joe in the dark at night. It'll be black journal. So, being slow to respond. The next one is to reset expectations. I don't feel like I need to write that down, but it's effectively just like getting people to expect that you're going to respond slowly, which I feel like you don't really have to tell people that. Increase your response time and expectations. You can say something like this. Okay, yeah, that's talking about colleagues. I don't have any colleagues. And so I don't really need to, yeah. What's the dark blue one? Yeah, if you want to do the dark blue one as a swap, I'll totally swap you. Would you ever use another blackout journal again? I would be keen to try, but at the same time, I know that gel pens are my nemesis, so yeah, literally. I think the gel pens are the ultimate nemesis. They are. Gel pens and low-key to an extent paint pens are my nemesis. So I think that there's 2 of them, so it's like nemesi. They're my nemesi. I know nemesi isn't a word. I don't care. So after this, they have then got a set up a send-only email. I'm not going to do that. They have vacationing off the grid. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to write it down. Because oftentimes when I take a vacation, I don't have anything set up to say like, hey, I'm away. Like, I'm just always contactable. So, vacation off the grid. Vacation off the grid. And it's also like, you don't technically have to be off the grid. You just have to... Not like so much like pretend. It's not really about pretending. It's just, yeah. You're kind of making it so that you're just not contactable. Like, I am out of office right now. So it's like, set up out of office. Email response when taking time off. Because yeah, I don't get so many emails that it's like that big of an issue. but it would probably be a good thing to do at some point. I literally just jumped into my email for no reason. Get out of your email. So number 41 is good. Number 42 is locking yourself out of your email. I don't need to do that. Like, that's not really an issue for me. But that means that this section is finito, and we can cap it off. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. Beep. Crisscross, everybody clap your hands. This is looking great. I'm so chuffed with how this is turning out. I know I already said that at least 3 times, but just in case you forgot, I'm very chuffed with how this is turning out. So, those are highlight, laser. We're still on laser. We're continuing with laser. And this is about making TV a sometimes treat, which I don't seem to have as much of an issue with TV as I previously used to. But I have recently started rewatching Supernaturals. Do I ever draw crooked lines because my hands try to dance? Not typically. Usually I'll draw a crooked line because I don't take the time to like recorrect when I start to go off course, or especially on this side of the page, if my bookmark is too close. It's not a bookmark. If my elastic closure is too close to the page I'm working on, it kind of makes the page uneven. It's a little hard to deal with. Yeah. This level of bump doesn't bother me so much because once I put a box next to it, it'll be a lot less noticeable. At the moment, it's a little bit like, I see you there, but it's all good. Make TV a sometimes treat. Doo-dah, doo-dah. This one's supposed to go here, so make TV a sometimes treat. There we go. Make TV a sometimes treat. Now, there's not a lot on here that I think that I actually have to specify because I'm not necessarily going to do them. Don't watch the news. Not a problem. I don't watch the news as it is. Put your TV in the corner and ditch your TV for a projector. I'm not going to do those. Go a la carte, I will write down, and it's something that technically I consider that we've already kind of done because we already got rid of Netflix and Disney Plus, and those were the 2 streaming services that we had. But I might write it down. I'll write that one down even though we've already done it. And if you love something, set it free. What is that? Okay, you don't have to give up your television, but if you find it hard to reduce your hours, I don't think I need to do that. So we're just going to probably on this one write go a la carte because I'm not going to restructure my lounge room. So this one's going to be a very small box, 46. How can we make chuffed happen? I mean, the more that you say something, the more you build it into your own regular lexicon, but also the people around you start to say it too. For instance, I have gotten into a habit of saying the people are good eggs. So I'm just like, oh yeah, my people in my Discord, they're such good eggs, or like, that person that we're talking about, blah, 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 they're such a good egg. And now Vogel calls people good eggs because he spends a lot of time with me, funnily enough. Given the fact that he's my partner, that's probably a good thing. So, be the change you wish to see in the world. Go a la carte. A la carte. Instead of all you can eat. So in this tactic, they talk about the idea that if you have, you are good eggs. Exactly. So, yeah, you're not a bunch of Veruca salts. So in this tactic, they talk about the idea that with streaming services in particular, like Netflix and Hulu and all that, whatever, it becomes much more of a time suck because you end up just scrolling through like, hey, what the heck do I want to watch? But it becomes very easy to just like binge in a way if you're doing something a la carte. So like, renting an individual movie or renting an individual TV show or like whatever, you're a lot more intentional about the stuff that you're actually consuming because you pay on a like per item basis kind of a thing. So cancel subscription based media and opt for pay for one kind of a thing. Yes. And there was nothing else in this one that I wanted to do, to write about, because TV isn't a big issue for me anymore, so I don't feel the need to restructure my living room to make it so that my TV is less accessible. I feel like Vogel would not be very impressed with me if I did that. So cute. So we got just like a nice little box about making TV a sometimes treat. Yes. Scrolling. So our next one is still in the focus section, which I keep calling it focus. They call it laser. We're still in the laser tactics. But the tactics we have here are shutting the front door, inventing a deadline, explode your highlight, play a laser soundtrack, set a visible timer, avoid the lure of fancy tools, and start on paper. I think I'm going to want to write down most of these, and I don't think that they're necessarily going to fit in this bottom section. So we're going to just continue to work through because I like the idea of the numbers being in order, but we might need to consider what we're going to do if it goes over to the to the top. I love that. Say your favorite saying is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. That's funny. I have another quote that's like, that's about as useful as but it is inappropriate to say on the interwebs, so I'm not going to. But it is from Dodgeball, and if you know what the line is, then you let me know. So find flow is the one that we're talking about here. Oh, bacon and eggs time. How dare you? No, I want bacon and eggs. Yeah. I was actually very tempted to buy bacon yesterday, but I didn't. So here I am, baconless. So shut the front door, and by that I mean it's just shut the door. So that was good. Shut the door is number 48. The problem with shutting the door in my place is that the heater is right outside the door. So if I shut the door, then I get cold. But in a season where I don't have to have the heater running, it would be okay. Shut the door. Let's see. Time for some dinner and some more Supernatural watching. Yeah, Supernatural. As useful as knickers on an avocado. Oh my gosh. That's funny. It's an interesting visual. So shutting the door is obviously depends on what it is that you're working on. Similar idea can be just like putting headphones on, they talk about, because it's just a signal to say that like I'm paying attention. Yeah, I'm like, doing something right now. Signals that you're busy and focused. So politely go away. Focused, 2 S's or 1? I'm going to just do 1 because 2 S's look silly. Do I know it's right? Absolutely not, but we're going with it. So number 49 is to invent a deadline, which is also valuable. I find that I work a lot better if I'm coming up to a deadline. I find it a little bit hard to actually invent my own deadlines and actually stick with them, but if I can trick myself into thinking like that is the cutoff point, then it makes it a little easier. Yay! I'm glad that it was only 1S because that's what I went with. Invent a deadline. My spelling errors mainly come from whether things do or don't need doubles. That's a big issue for me. So yeah, whoops. But at the same time, as long as I know what I'm trying to say in my journal, I don't really mind too much if I've made a spelling error. The places that I do bother spelling errors, though, no. The places that I do have issue, or the spelling errors bother me, come on, words, is mainly in headers, yeah? So, like, if I had written make time and I spelt it TIEM or something like that, first of all, what the actual heck? Yeah, second of all, I would probably actually fix that mistake. I'd, take the time to do that. Yeah, see, coming up to you and standing there until your headphones take off is just it's a battle, Monica. You just need to be stubborn enough to make sure that you win. don't remove the headphones. Never back down. Never say die. Rah rah, fight the power. All right, inventing a deadline. When someone else is waitingly expecting results, it's a lot easier to do things. Yes, I would agree. So making your own deadline, especially if it's like imposed by something in particular. Like one of the examples they give in the book is you know they talk about, one of them talks about their highlight was around kind of getting into running again because they kind of fell off with it when they started working. So one of the ways that they invented a deadline for that was to join a 5K run kind of a thing. So that then they had that very specific date being, this run is happening. You have signed up for this. You've registered. Like, we need to make sure that we have stuff done and ready for that in particular. So either a self-imposed one or related to an external happening. And I find external deadlines a lot more helpful personally, but a little harder to come by. Happening. To hold us to time. Felt like it needed more words. Yes. Forget letters a lot, yeah. I find that oftentimes it's not necessarily a spelling error because I didn't know how to spell it. It's just that I was distracted when I was writing something down. So I was trying to find, what was the word? I think it was genuine the other day. And I knew that the genuine needed to have a U in it, but I kept on just read Guine, like Guine, and I'm like, why isn't this right? Like, I know that genuine has a U in it. I'm like, yeah, but you missed out like a bunch of other letters in the middle there, Jess. So what are you doing? Number 50 is explode your highlight, which is just really breaking it down, which we love a good breakdown. We love a good breakdown. Not like that. Explode your highlight. I like breaking things down into smaller steps in general, though, so that's a good one. Explode your highlight. Yeah, necessary. Is necessary got 2 C's? I thought necessary only had 1 C. Necessary. 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 I don't know. Does necessary have 2 C's or 1 C? Oh, you just add an extra. Okay, I'm considering things, and by that I mean I'm confusing myself, and I don't have good words. I have the best words. She lied. All right, so coming back to the protocol here is that we are thinking about exploding the highlight. So I had a couple of things to highlight in here. Highlighting the highlight. Anyways, so breaking your highlight into a list of small, easy-to-do bits, making sure that each includes a verb so that it's actionable, making sure that it's specific and small and easy. Nice. All right. That's the idea of shifting something in our mind that perceives as like, to a doable, completable task because it builds momentum. We love building momentum. It makes us happy. Yeah. Same with tomorrow, you add an extra M. I find vacuum hard because I know it has a double U, but I can consistently think it should have a double M. I also find the word mattress hard. For a long time, I found the word restaurant difficult, but I think I've gotten over that one, but it took a good long while. So, break your highlight down into small, actionable things. Tasks. Nice. Then we have the play the laser soundtrack. Pew, 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 pew. It's that idea of vacuum is awful. Broccoli. Oh my gosh. Yes, broccoli is one that constantly gets me because I'm just like it should have a double L as well, right? Like broccoli. Come on, words. Just be more sensible. I don't know. Improving my spelling is not at the top of my to-do list, so I don't mind so much, really. Play a laser soundtrack. So this is very much the like Pavlov's dog of it all. So to get yourself ready for work, like in the mindset of it's work time, is playing a specific song or soundtrack to kind of get yourself into that space. I found that back in the way back when, I used to have a pill that I would take at 12 p.m. every day, and the thing that I would have for the pill like alarm would be a specific song, and anytime I'd hear that song, my mouth would start salivating. Not because the pill was particularly tasty, but because my body was like, you need to swallow the pill and we need to make this as easy as possible, which was kind of problematic. Yeah, so playing a laser soundtrack is effectively related to getting yourself ready to start your highlight by playing the same song or album each time. Play the same song or album. Either, what is it, like every time you start your highlight? Every time you start. We're just going to try and fit this in here. Your highlight. There we go. Nice. Just so that then it ends at the same point as the last one, because if it went down the line, then I'm like, oh, things don't line up anymore, and that would be bummers. Yeah, it's the final countdown. Or, when you use a song for your alarm clock kind of song, Rachel used to have a song by Fall Out Boy as her alarm for getting up in the morning. So every time she'd hear it, it would be like huh! Kind of a thing, because it would almost shock her awake every morning. So every time she'd hear it, it would just like start to associate waking up with that song, which can be both a positive and a negative thing depending on how you feel about waking up. So like you never want to pick a song that is like your favorite song to start a something that you don't necessarily view very favorably, I suppose. Otherwise you start to kind of resent the song. So that is the find flow section, but we do, I think, have a couple more in find flow that I would like to write down. And rather than writing another header, I'm just going to continue the list on. Because otherwise I feel like I'll treat it like it's a separate thing and it's really just a continuation. So the next one for find flow, which I thought was a very good idea, is the idea of setting a visible timer, because there's something about actually having a timer counting down, or even just a clock, that can be very helpful with kind of keeping us on task and on time. So that's a good idea. Tink. Salsa. Yeah, make your alarm clock song that you like. Not one that you love too much. Like you want it to be the kind of song that like gets you ready for the day and pumped and like, yeah, let's get out of bed and go fight the power and stuff. But also not one that you like too much, because otherwise you'll start to be like, mornings. I used to like this song, now I hate it. Yeah, pronunciation. Yeah, buff. So setting a visible timer is number 52. I need to be careful here because it's supposed to be here, but it's supposed to have a curve over. Ooh. It's not going to start at the same level and it's going to make me sad. Unless I just write it here and I just make it go across. Yeah, we'll do that. 52. Hopefully you kind of understood what I was trying to allude to there with all of my very good words. I was going to put 52 at the top, but I know that the way I like to do these boxes, they curve over at the edges. So if I was putting 52 at the top, it would have to curve above the 52, which means that the top of the box would come up higher than the top of this box, which would look a little bit strange to me. So I decided to put it just a line lower to be in line with the 34 here, so that then it'll curve in the same place. So it'll be lined up a little bit nicer. Thanks for being here while you could be, Deb. Hope your phone stops being a plonker and gets some charge soon and stuff. 52 was set a visible timer. Now, this could be a, like, they talk about using like an analog thing. So it's like got effectively like a dial and it shows how much time is remaining and stuff. I usually find that just opening up a tab on Google Chrome or whatever, 'cause again, that's what I use, with a countdown is fine. Go away, hair. Ugh. So, open up a clock or countdown tab on Chrome, because that's what I use. Now, 52 was set a visible timer. 53 was avoid the lure of fancy tools. 53. Avoid the lure of fancy. Oh, I'm not going to try and fit that in there because normally I would just shove it in there anyways, but it would go over the dot grid, and considering I'm putting boxes around each of them, I'd rather have it so that it didn't have to cut through a word or go around a word. Either is bad. Oh, fancy tools. That looks a lot safer. Yeah. Yeah. I think that the ones that they're talking about is mainly for digital tools and like overcomplications in digital tools. So like if we just open it up here, there's the idea like, what's the best to-do list app? Or like, I guess you could say, the most exquisite notepad and pen for taking notes and sketching. So yeah, like I guess in a way our pen and marker collections. But no, I feel like we should be picking the right tool for the job a lot of the time. I'm not very good at taking that advice. If you've ever seen me try and color in a large section of a page with a fine liner. But I find it mainly for me is with digital tools is where I have the issue, because if I'm using analog, bullet journaling, for instance, it's as fancy or as complicated as you want it to be, which is why I really value it, because, it's like pick your own adventure. So choosing a perfect tool is usually a distraction. So don't let picking the perfect tool become a distraction. Well, if I can spell become, that'd be good, but it says now become, but that's okay. Become a distraction. Yeah, so getting into laser mode is a lot easier when you adopt simple tools that are readily available, because that's also the kind of thing, it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, where your favorite pen runs out or something and you don't have another one, so you can't finish doing something. Yeah? So I feel that like one of the things I really value about this pen, the Ink Joy, is that it is available where I am. So if it runs out, I can go down to the store and grab it. Recently, they seem to have had a shortage, but they have seemed to also have remedied that now. But I don't get too precious about it, which is nice. I have plenty of them, which is nice, and they are readily available for if once my stock runs out, I can get more. So that's one thing that is valuable. I mean, yeah. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So after this one, the next thing is to start on paper. We love paper. 54. Start on paper. Thanks for being here while you could be. Always a pleasure to see you. Start on paper. Yeah, exactly. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah, the acrylographs in particular, like, let's just ignore that. But yeah, I think I'm becoming a little bit more streamlined in what I actually like to use. It's kind of, if we think about it, let's just say, and knock on wood, because we don't want this to happen, let's just say that your house burnt down or was lost in a tornado or like whatever. I don't know. Something happened. You don't have any of your supplies anymore. Which ones would you actually bother spending the time and resources, like money, to actually go and get again? Yeah? Because I kind of think about the supplies that I have, and a large chunk of them I probably would not bother to replace, or at least not bother to replace right away. Like for me, I would have to replace my paper mates because I love them, and I would probably replace the Tombos because I use the ever-loving heck out of them. But outside of that, there are others. Like there are other things I would replace, but the list is a lot smaller, like compared to the amount of supplies I actually do have. So interesting. Start on paper though. So paper improves focus. Paper is less intimidating. This is what I'm reading from the book here. On paper, you can do anything at all. Flexibility. Ability. Freedom. Freedom. And improves focus. And less intimidating. Because it's familiar. after start on paper, they then move into the next section. I mean, so like, okay, we're gonna put a caveat on this, okay? Because I don't think that paper is intimidating. I think that a notebook is intimidating. Yeah, because if I give you like, this guy here, he's not intimidating. He's just like a fugly little pad of paper kind of a thing, like, which I have found incredibly helpful for doing things like my mind mapping and stuff. It can be messy and it can go all over the place and whatever else. Or my little kind of like list of books that Monica has given me for homework to read. Or like these guys here, this one's a real mess. This kind of stuff I don't find intimidating. But a notebook, that's different. You are special. Like, you are intimidating, my friend, but messy paper, not so much. Starting on paper. There we go. Okay, so we need to curve around at about the same place. Whee! And I don't want to do it from that side of the page because, okay, I'm putting this on because, like, safe. When I draw lines on the side of my notebook here, I find it very difficult to keep my pen steady because my hand doesn't have anything to lean off, or like, it just feels like I'm falling off the edge of a cliff. So if I turn this around, then I actually have my notebook to lean on. Bang, bang. Sorry if that was loud. It was very aggressive. So I have something to lean on here. It's just a little easier. In the same way that we kind of turn the notebook so that we can draw the pen towards ourselves, we also turn the notebook so that we can rest our hand against things that make drawing lines easier. All of these things. Akatar. I have read number 1, 2, and 3. I've read the first 3. I just need to read the next ones, 3.5 and 4. But I have to read this month's book club book first. Like, I have to finish my homework before I can leisure read. Let's see. Dink. Okay, the next one we said was stay in the zone. Oh, yes. So making a random questions list, noticing one breath, being bored, being stuck, taking a day off and going all in. And I'm going to write every single one of these down because I value all of them, especially the making a random questions list. Do you ever find that, puts the lid on the paper pen because otherwise I'll draw my page. Do you ever find it that you might be doing something and then, a random question pops up in your mind. So you're like, this is the most pressing thing. I need to figure out the answer to this. I need to go look this up now. Like, you're watching a movie and then you're like, who is that actor? So you pause the movie to go look up the actor and then you're like 20 minutes deep into their back catalog of movies and stuff like that. No, just me? Oh, well. But that's effectively what the making a random question list is about. So not letting yourself get distracted from the task at hand by putting aside those questions so you can come back to them later. Because oftentimes when you come back to them at, say, the end of the day, you look through the list and you're like, I genuinely don't care anymore. Like, this isn't an issue. Like, yeah. Which is why I have also, okay, with the actors one in particular, I don't know if you guys have Amazon Prime. I just got a free trial so that I could watch my Supernatural, that I'm watching. And I really love that when you pause it, the actor pops up, like, on screen. I thought that was a really cool feature. I'm like, Amazon knows. They know why we're pausing. Like, all right, so stay in the zone. 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 Typically when I sing this song, it's hard fucking pass. Like, da, 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 da. That's for things that I don't want to do. Stay in the zone. Number 55. Make a random questions list. Random questions list. And I think that if I were to do this one, I would probably make an actual page in my journal, probably somewhere in the front or in the back, more likely the back. But anyways, make a specific page in my journal to drop those questions. Just because I feel like it would, what's the word for it? If I had an intentional space to put them, I'd be more likely to actually use it, I guess, question mark. I don't know. Yeah, so make a random questions list. So I'm going to say set up a space to house temp questions to action later, so that we can stay in the zone. Stay in the zone. Right. Number 56 is notice one breath. It's that idea of kind of drawing ourselves back to the present, so that then we can continue with more intention. Notice the one breath. Lol. Whoops. Okay. Do I want to? Yeah. Okay. Fine. We're gonna correct it only because this is like the official tactic name. Otherwise, I wouldn't really care so much. So coming back, boom, with our sticker, just our little sticker paper, nice and simple. We just cut off a little piece and stick it over the top of our mistake. See? Where'd it go? It's completely gone. There we go. So, see, Monica bullied me into reading it. Like, not really. She's not actually bullied me into it. So what happened was Rachel read the book. Rachel was telling me about it, like, I don't know, start of last year or whatever. And that was when I was like, okay, this sounds like an interesting story. I might actually want to read it. But you know how I am. Everything just gets put on the kind of future me problems list. So I'm like, yeah, that's a someday maybe task for me. But then I just kind of, was hearing about the enjoyment of the series from Monica. I'm like, okay, I will put out there that I might want to read it at some stage, which was a huge flippin' mistake, obviously, because then Monica's like, you have to read it, 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 you have to read it. Which I appreciate because I have enjoyed the series, but still. So yes, her incessant badgering of me has made me read this book. Which again, I'm not sad about it. I really enjoyed it. Notice one, not the one breath. Breath. Yeah, but also facts, indeed. Oh, hello to Ontario, Canada, and also you, Tracy. Yeah, no, it's sometimes I just need a little bit more encouragement to do things. Otherwise, stuff just ends up on my future me problems list for quite a while. And sometimes the encouragement comes in the form of, Jess, why haven't you picked up the book? Jess, pick up the book. Jess, I think you should read this book. Jess, you need to read the book. You need to read the book before November. Jess. Anywho, so the next one was noticing one breath. Let's go see if I highlighted anything here. I did. I highlighted a little bit. So, yeah, one breath really enough to just reset your attention. Excellent. Okay, so that idea of attention resetting, we can put that in my little blurb that I write down here. So, use one intentional breath to reset your attention. Does anybody have the same issue where if you either read about it or somebody speaks about it or something like that, anything that comes to do with like breathing, and you become very acutely aware of your breathing, and then you have to actually focus on making sure that you're breathing. Like, you actually have to, put a conscious effort into it. Otherwise, you kind of just stop breathing. Sometimes I do that when I'm doing my journaling. So I'll go through and do like my editing for my videos, and there are points where I just like take a really loud breath of air in, so it's just like kind of a thing, because I have forgotten to breathe because I was doing something else. I really hope that you don't relate with that, honestly, but if you do, like, let me know, because yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. So 57. There we go. Pick up your pen like a normal person. Don't throw it on your page. So, 57 is be bored. So, this is the idea of give your mind a chance to wander. Wander? I get confused between wander and wonder, but yeah. Makes you better at creative thinking. And then 58 is be stuck. I have a sneaking suspicion that I might have to go over another page here. So, be stuck. So this one is about just like effectively not giving up, like focus on the project at hand, like just sit there and stare at it effectively, because eventually you will be able to get unstuck. Don't quit too early, kind of a thing. Yeah, a little bit different from being bored. When you're bored, you don't have anything to do, but when you're stuck, you know exactly what you want to do. Your brain just isn't sure on how to proceed. Easy road out is to do something else, but let's not do that. Let's stay stuck and don't give up. Don't give up. Take some time to maintain your focus. And then after this, we have take the day off. Yay! Which I'm not very good at, so that definitely needs to be written down. Yeah, some of these ones, boundaries in general, I'm not very good at sticking to, and it just comes from the fact that I really like my work. But I do let it consume me sometimes. Take a day off. Yep. So switching to a joyful highlight that can help you recharge. Yeah. So real breaks throughout the day, which is a later one. And then, yeah, if you're trying these techniques and you still don't have laser mode, don't beat yourself up. You might need a rest day. So, like, have a rest day. Switch your highlight to something that brings joy. So at the start of the book, they talk about like different ways that you can select your highlight for the day. And one of them is the idea of you can pick it based on importance, you can pick it based on urgency, and you can pick it based on like joy bringing kind of a thing. So it's like what could you select that would bring kind of positivity into your day? And then the last one for this section here is go all in, which is 60, which is one that I've very much been trying to do, more specifically with my joyful related highlights. which is it's odd to say that I have to actually tell myself to go all in on them. But like I mentioned before, I enjoy doing my work, so I let it take up a lot of my time. And if I'm not watching out for it, I will often let my work start taking up my social time. So either like procrastinating heading out to go to a social event because I'm working, or checking in with my work related stuff while I'm at said social event. But if I kind of specifically tell myself that, like, no, you are focusing fully, wholeheartedly on this right now, then I actually end up doing better. So we got this one here, going all in. So throw all your focus to highlight, to fully embrace it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit of space here where I'll probably add some more detail about it, just because after this one we start into the next section, which is all about energizing. So this is highlight, laser, then energize, and then there's just reflect, but there's no tactics for reflection. I don't think they give you like a kind of layout that you can use for it, but in terms of actual tactics, like the ones we've been writing down, it's a little different. See, you can see how weird that line got because I didn't turn my notebook. So that one can come down here. Oh, see, this is why I like to turn it around for this part too, because then my line gets a little weird. See, look at that. Hideous. Nah, it's not that bad, but I could probably fix it up. So I am going to go and put a little label over the top of it and just make it look a little bit neater, because, again, I really like this trick of using the little sticky label to fix this kind of stuff up. And we'll just do a little bit of this line, just make it a little bit straighter, because I want to have a little bit of, run up, so that I can kind of get them to meet the way that they're supposed to, as opposed to just weirdly as it is here. That looks a lot better, even though it's still a little bit cattywampus. Isn't that gorgeous, team? Now, as we said, there are a lot more tactics in this book. The book has something like 84 tactics. We're currently up to 60. But we have filled in a full page. I am going to have to set up a new page for the remaining tactics that I have, because we have the entire of the energizing tactics. But we might have to save tactic 61 through to 87 it is, for another stream. If you enjoyed this one, though, make sure that you give me a big thumbs up. If you want to check out Make Time, it's linked in the description box. As I said, it's totally worthwhile. If this is the kind of stuff that you're into, like, I really love the pick your own adventure of it, and I think it's worth checking out. I am going to skedoodle now, though, and so until our next live stream, I will bid you farewell. Goodbye, gorgeous humans. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you later.